Last season, The Walking Dead introduced its first Muslim character, Nabila.
Here's the beautiful thing, Your Majesty. You can tear it out and cut it down. You can burn it and throw it all away. But if you want, it can all grow back.
Naturally, the series was praised for bringing in a much-needed hijab-wearing Muslima. The Independent boasted, "Fans commend introduction of what is probably series' first Muslim character." Of course, many fans also understand that, much like a professional football game, a television program about a zombie apocalypse isn't just entertainment. It's something that must be politicized. If you have a captive audience, why wouldn't you seize the opportunity to tell them what to believe? Thus, the headline in The Express. The Walking Dead fans demand first Muslim character is promoted. This is so important. We'll have to wait and see whether the show is going to promote its first Muslim character, but we already know that it's promoting its second Muslim character, who made his debut in episode 1 of season 8, an episode titled Mercy. Now, it's perfectly reasonable to have Muslim characters on The Walking Dead. Muslims make up around 1% of the U.S. population, so we would expect Muslims to show up occasionally. The question is, what's the show going to do with the Muslim characters? Are the writers simply going to have characters on the show who happen to be Muslims? Or are they going to use these Muslim characters to convince viewers that Islam is the best thing since George Romero? If we've learned anything about the entertainment industry, we know it's the latter. Before we even see the new character, he's already telling us some wonderful things about Islam, although at first he only claims to be sharing a bit of mommy's wisdom.
I'm just gonna say something my mom used to say and hope for the best here. Whatever you have of good, spend on the traveler.
Those of us who've read the Quran know that mommy's wisdom comes from Allah. Whatever you have of good, spend on the traveler is a condensed version of Surah 2, verse 215 of the Quran. The verse reads, "They ask you, O Muhammad, what they should spend. Say, whatever you spend of good must be for parents and kindred and orphans and al-masakin, the poor, and the wayfarer, i.e. the traveler, and whatever you do of good deeds, truly Allah knows it very well." Fortunately, Mommy didn't teach her son the very next verse of the Quran, where Allah declares, "Jihad, holy fighting in Allah's cause, is ordained for you, Muslims, though you dislike it, and it may be that you dislike a thing which is good for you, and that you like a thing which is bad for you. Allah knows, but you do not know." Yes, the same God who commands his followers to help the traveler also commands them to violently subjugate the unbeliever. Good thing Mommy left that out, or Carl might be in trouble. But Carl's not in trouble, because our new Muslim friend soon gives us his first clear quotation from the Quran.
Mom, she also said that, may my mercy prevail over my wrath. It's not all my mom, that's from the Quran.
I guess the writers did a Google search for wonderful Islamic teachings, but didn't bother to check the sources, because my mercy prevails over my wrath doesn't come from the Quran. It comes from the Hadith, Sahih Muslim 6971. The Messenger of Allah said, "When Allah had finished creation, he ordained for himself in his book, which is with him, my mercy prevails over my wrath." Now, this is actually hilarious because this is something that Allah wrote in his book about his divine attributes. but on the show, it's something that people are supposed to quote to remind themselves to be more merciful. It's going to take a while for that mercy to sink in, however, since Rick Grimes, like all violent Americans, shows up and starts shooting at the poor Muslim.
I just wanted some, even just some food.
But he wasn't really trying to hurt him.
I shot over his head. I just wanted him gone.
He said that he
I heard what he said.
Don't worry, Carl comes back later and apologizes on behalf of all non-Muslims. Take that, Trump's travel ban. At the end of the show, we get a flash forward to some future scene where Rick has to make an extraordinarily difficult decision. And what helps him make the right decision? The words of Allah, of course.
My mercy prevails over my wrath.
We don't know what Rick's agonizing decision is about yet, but let me give you my prediction. Later this season, Rick finally defeats Negan. Negan has killed some of Rick's closest friends in the most brutal fashion imaginable, and Rick finally has a chance at revenge. But just as he's about to kill Negan, he remembers the words of Allah, "My mercy prevails over my wrath," which he learned from our new Muslim friend. Rick's heart melts, he spares Negan's life, and he transforms into a more peaceful, more merciful, less violent man. Because that's what Islam does to people. Islam takes violent, ruthless killers and turns them into calm, gentle, loving people. On television, at least. So, what has The Walking Dead taught us about Islam? 1. Muslim children love their mommies. 2. Islam promotes helping travelers. Just don't read the next verse, which calls for jihad. 3. Allah's mercy prevails over his wrath. Just don't think that this has anything to do with what Allah does to unbelievers. And 4, Muhammad's teachings are the key that frees us from our bondage to violence and vengeance. And that's why every television network needs to constantly remind us how beautiful Islam is. Sadly, the writers for The Walking Dead don't seem to know much about the religion they're trying to ram down our throats. There are 6,236 verses in most versions of today's Quran. The writers tried to present one clear quotation from the Quran, and they couldn't even get that right. But not to worry. I'll be right here every week in case the writers decide to tell us about the lovely Quran verses where Allah proclaims there's no compulsion in religion, and if anyone kills a man, it's as if he's killed all mankind. I'm happy to help. And I really didn't want to make the video that many of you have been demanding since last year, the video comparing Negan and Muhammad. But let's face it, these writers are leaving me no choice.
Okay, I think I just pissed myself. I'm gonna go.